Okay, let's get started with reassembly. So what I've done is I've cleaned out all the jewels, taken a nice clean piece of Rotoco and pressed it into the jewels and wiped, and made sure that there wasn't anything left behind. I'm also going to put on finger cots. I am of the mindset that the less you touch the metal with your finger, the better off you are, and I want to try and show you some in-depth manipulation of these components. So it's going to look like I have little fingers of rubber gloves on my fingers, and you can see them here. Some people use them, some people don't, but I tend to find that they help keep the movement clean as I'm working. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by just taking that clean piece of Rotoco and just going over these pieces. And what I'm going to try and do is inspect each piece independently. So for example, I'll put this in place when I've placed some lubricant, and so here's my lubrication tray. So I have a little tray here that's got lubricant in it, and I'll use, these are very specific oils with known viscosities that are good for watchmaking. And the amount of oil you put in is quite small. So you use an oiler. For example, here's a virgin red oiler. And so I'm gonna add a little bit of lubrication to this main plate jewel here, just a touch. And I'll also add some to the mainspring arbor port. This is a different lubricant. This is D5. Place just a tiny amount there. Okay, so now I can put the center wheel in place. I'm going to check it very closely under loop to make sure there's no contaminants, no hairs, nothing on it. And now go ahead and replace center wheel back to the main plate. And what I like to do is, I've learned this from someone else, where you can check the position, for example, of different components. And what you do is you put the center wheel in, and because I haven't jeweled this, I don't really need to check the position of the barrel. But I'm going to put this cock in place. Before I do that, I'm going to add a little bit of lubrication to the top of the center wheel, just a little. And then I'm going to add this cock in place here, which will allow me to place the other components onto the main plate individually. Okay, so now it's time to replace this brushed finish screw. And what I'm going to do is tighten that down. I'm going to individually check each one of these wheels to make sure that it's got the proper clearance with its particular jewels. So here's the third wheel, and here is the chronograph wheel. Looks pretty good. I'm not going to put any lubrication on here right now. I am going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure that's nice and clean. So let's go with the third wheel first. Put this chronograph wheel back. Okay, so now I'm going to place this bridge on, and there's a shaft here that holds this in place. So find the right spot. Okay. Sorry for the barking, I have a crazy dog. Okay. Now you gotta make sure that everything is in place properly. So I take a piece of pegwood here and try and get this jewel, this wheel to settle down. There's some considerable play in there. Give a little air. Pretty good and flat, but seems to be some serious end play here. Well, it's not terrible, but perhaps should be a little bit tighter. So the way you take care of that is you press that bushing down a little bit with your jeweling tool. All right, let's check the state of the off. Remove that. Let's put the put this back in place. Okay, looks like we're in contact here. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's put a little blast of air here. Oh yeah, that runs beautifully. Okay, that's good. All right, so that looks all right. I'm a little concerned about the position of the third wheel. All right, so I'm gonna drop that bushing down just a fraction of a millimeter, and I'll come back. Okay, I think we're good now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put the barrel back in place, so that then meshes with center wheel. And what you're looking for is a good connection where the gears mesh. And you really, what you want is you want the barrel gears to be roughly intermeshing, or not roughly. You want them intermeshing, but you want the position of these teeth to be right very close to the top of the center wheel teeth. And so when they do come together, they come together both flat and close, and that looks almost, yeah, that's perfect, just like that. Now, there is some play in this barrel. Now, I could jewel that lower mainspring arbor port, but I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Mostly because I don't have the materials at the moment. But what I will do is go ahead and add a small bit of lubrication top of this. Bring this down just a touch. Get it more in my working space here. Yep. Sorry for the smudge. A little bit of ink to mark my center. Okay. So now, okay. So hopefully I won't bash the phone every time I go to do something. So I'm going to add a small bit of lubrication, again under a loop. Right there for the chronograph wheel. The other wheels will get lubricated on the tops of their main plates, so that's the only real lubrication that I'll do here. So let's put the third wheel in, and it just sets down. And then we replace the go. You go right in. And now you put the chronograph wheel in, fourth wheel chronograph wheel combination, and that gets one small drip of lubrication right on its end. So here in this little spot right there. My dog's just decided to join me. Sorry for the noise. Okay, so I'm going to just check this wheel, make sure there's nothing stuck to it. Sorry for the noise. Which there seems to be. So let me just get this under a loop. You always are susceptible to a little bit of dust and detritus from your bench if you're not in a closed environment. So I just want to make sure that everything is nice and clean. Now there's other ways to lubricate this jewel or this wheel, and unfortunately I'm not brave enough because I don't want to ruin it. But you're supposed to press down and put a drop of oil where the clutch is for this particular type of chronograph wheel. Alright, that actually looks pretty good. Okay, pretty satisfied that's clean. Got a little bit of lubrication. Again, that's a little bit goes a long way. Never good to over lubricate. Okay, so now that all the wheels are back in the train, go ahead and replace the train bridge. There we go. Okay, now it takes a little bit of convincing to get all of the pivots lined up into their jewels properly. So once you get them, they are usually, you can hear a little snap. So it helps sometimes to rotate things. So it looks like the just gotta finesse it in place. There it goes. Okay, now everybody should be rotating together, which they are. So now I can, sorry about that. Now I can grab one of our standard size screws. Place that. Check the working of the, good. Okay. So now this goes here. screw, and that drops in right here. This is actually the first 6139 I ever worked on, and it had a bad chronograph wheel, so I had to replace it. And when you do that, unfortunately, because of the way that these reset, the chronograph wheel actually has a notch in the end to hold the minute recording, or the sweep wheel, sweep hand. And then when you replace it, the unfortunate part is that the sweep hand doesn't always align with the notch that gets embossed into the actual tube on the hand when it's new, and so your return of your sweep hand isn't back to the 0 mark or the straight up and down. And so that's one of the problems with replacing chronograph wheels, is that they are never usually returning back to where they originally were. Okay, so now that we have that on, we can add a very tiny amount of lubrication to the escape wheel. Again, sorry about the... Okay, and to the third wheel. Make sure that that's properly lubricated. And actually pull off a little bit of lubrication with some Rotoco. Okay, got a little too much. That's good, just like that. Okay, add a little tiny bit more to this one. There we go, that's enough. Okay, so now I'm also going to add just a touch of D5 to the upper mainspring arbor. That's good. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is go ahead and replace this holder, which is here on my bench. So that's this little L-shaped component with its small machine screw, which is here. Okay, it takes a slightly smaller screwdriver. Make sure you don't ever cross these threads. It's very easy to have a problem with threads. You don't want to do that. Okay, so that just is tight enough. Check the running of the bridge. The thing about this is that you can't run power in this particular movement until you get the last bridge on top, because that holds the chronograph wheel in place. With the other ones, you can already at this point, with this bridge in place, or this level of bridge in place, you can start to run the click spring, put power into the barrel. Now what I didn't show is the cleaning and removal of the mainspring. Oops, actually I want to put my click in place before I do this. So here we go. Here's the lovely click. Such a simple design. The Swiss movements have so many more components to make up their click springs and clicks, and they just are kind of fiddly. This is so simple, just a bent piece of steel, spring steel with a interesting shape, and it goes underneath the ratchet wheel. And try to do this in a smart way. Place this in place. I'm usually not working in this kind of configuration with the phone so close to the work. All right. Oops. Please stop being a pain. All right. So that's why it's never fun to take this particular screw out, because it's really not supported by much other than the hole itself. And you end up with kind of a mess. glass. I'll edit out my fumbling. Okay, there it goes. This is a particular type of screw as well. It's the only screw in here like this. Sometimes you see these that have been serviced that have a somewhat more generic head to them. They're the wrong screw, but that's okay. All right, so next one is for the barrel. That's not the barrel. There it is. All right, round head, somewhat larger. And you have to tighten this one up and then hold the ratchet wheel in place. So you tighten it down, it's got a keyed position, and then there you go. Okay, now what I would normally do at this point with a regular 6000 series is put a little power into the mainspring and watch the train run in a little bit. But with this, like I said, you can't do that because of this upper jewel isn't set. So, and it's actually not the next level, it's the next level up. And so you have to get all of these components put in place before you can do that. So now we're going to build out the levers that operate the chronograph. This wheel here, which operates the positions of those levers. And we're going to put the springs back on and get this all built. Put the hammer on. So I'll start with this one, this lever here. So just gingerly place that back on. Actually, add a little lubricant. Clean that off so there's no lubricant on it right now. So I'll put a little bit of D5, which I think is appropriate. It's not really a train operation, so just a tiny bit of D5 here and here, a little bit of D5 there. So all these components need to have some lubrication so they are properly serviced. Sorry, my position here is a little bit further back than I'm used to working, so I'm fumbling a bit. I usually work right on top of the movement. And to make a video, it's a different configuration. Okay. I'm going to change up a little bit here. Keep it so you can see, but try and make it so I can see as well. Sorry for the change. Zoom back in just a touch. Okay, here we go. Okay, make sure this is clean. And right back on. Alright. Make sure these levers, you can adjust these a little bit. Some adjustments that can be made to the chronograph overall. Mostly about where the operation fingers and tangs touch and get in interference. Okay, so that's the one with the shoulder. Do some general cleanup around here. Okay. And here's our machine screw. Goes here. Put that in place. Alright. You can see this little staining here. This is close to where the, if you have a bad O-ring on your stem and your crown, you can get water intrusion into this portion of the movement. Okay, so now first I'm going to put our O-ring, or metal washer. And that goes first. Okay, and then our chronograph crown wheel here. And I'm going to push this in place while I move the spring. Hopefully everybody's seated and happy, which is good. Now we put the screw, holds that in place. All right. Go. Seems to be good. Make sure that that has movement. Oh yeah, spins well. Okay, let's make sure it's in the right spot. So one click over. Allow that lever to move outward. Okay, now I'm going to put the hammer in. So the hammer goes on here, so it engages with two components, chronograph wheel and minute recorder. Okay, so I need my intermediate wheel, which goes here. It's got a long pivot and a short. The long pivot goes here. Okay, so that then interacts with a finger right here that's on the chronograph wheel, and then this is the minute recorder. I should put that, doesn't need lubrication. Okay, so that goes in here. Sometimes you have to get right into the right spot on the first try, or you're fumbling around, try not to mess it up. There it goes. Okay. So get those to intermesh just a touch. Good. Alright, so now everything's built. We need to put on the springs. So first spring here, it's this large one. It tucks in behind this lever, goes around this particular spot. I hold it with my finger and then grab my other tweezers here. It then, whoops, sorry, goes like that in place. Okay, so now I've knocked out my